Reach.
Oh, okay. Actually cut it
What, am I supposed to comment too?
If you want to. If you want to. How did the World War affect you, right?
down. Yeah.
Your family? How did the war affect your family?
Oh, you mean right now or during,
World War II
Oh.
or whatever?
oh. Well,
I know my 3 brothers went into the service.
we had an uncle that was in Paris, in France, those years. And then that was just before the Depression, it brought that on, and then we all pretty much, we were limited on our food and rationing a lot of things, and so,
I think wars always upset families. Somebody's gone sometime. Some don't come back, and it upsets families.
First wife, she lost 3 brothers in the service. And they had five brothers in the service, and they lost 3 out of the 5.
Wow.
The next to the oldest, he was a paratrooper, and they told them when they was going overseas that they wouldn't come back. And I guess he was in New Jersey in one of the camps, and those guys likely tore that camp to pieces after they was told that. And
Yeah.
they were very few of them that come back. They parachuted in behind the ahead of the front lines and behind the front lines, and as long as they lived, they'd take them up and drop them again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I'll kind of branch off on that. Do you remember where you were or what you were doing when you heard about World War II, like when it first started or when it ended?
I was in high school.
I was in California,
at the-
going to aircraft school when it started.
What was your first reaction to Pearl Harbor?
What's that?
What was your first reaction to the bombing of Pearl Harbor?
I was there right afterwards.
Oh, were you?
Yes.
My grandfather was actually there right afterwards too.
Yeah.
Your ship pulled in.
Hmm?
Your ship pulled in and
Yeah, we docked at Pearl Harbor and walked over the sunk ships to get to shore.
Yeah.
And the Army had taken over a girls' college up on the top of the hill. And we got in there too early. They didn't have the ship loaded, and they sent us up there to that hospital on top there and took care of the wounded up there, burnt. Most of them was burnt. And that gets me. Nowadays they have these burn hospitals and stuff, but all we used was saline solution, wheat saline solution, and wet packs. And you could just see the skin grow back on people. But now, well, my daughter here a few years back, she got her hand burnt. She went to the doctor, and the doctor put a bunch of ointment on and bound her fingers together. And she come out home, and I said, "You get back there and get that bandage off of those fingers." I said, "The finger, is burnt and everything." I said, "They'll grow together." And I said, "You tell that doctor to get them things off of there." Boy, why does smart people, is supposed to do something like that?
because our fingers would have grown together.
Yeah.
So do you remember how you felt at Pearl Harbor? Like, were you scared? Were you mad? Were you...
Well, I don't know, I was scared all my life, or all the time in there, but, what can you do about it? You just have to go ahead.
Were you in the service then?
Huh?
Were you in the service then?
Yeah,
Well, you know,
What did you do?
I was in the medics.
Okay.
he was a nurse.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
For 3 years. There's only 15 of us in our group. We would, go in and they'd get a shipload of patients on a troop ship, and we'd bring them back to the States. At one time, I went over on a hospital ship, and it was marked, big red cross on it. They wasn't supposed to bomb it or anything, but the Army got by sending medics over on that ship. It was just commissioned first trip out, and they
Wow.
went across on it. I went across on another ship. They brought out mothballs in New York, come down through the canal. We loaded it on at San Francisco. Was supposed to meet a convoy day out, and the whole ship went out and broke down, and we floated around and just bobbled up and down. 28 days later,
Wow.
we got into Australia, and we knew Japan was whipped, because it wouldn't have been there to got us for sure. But that old ship would go a little while and break down.
Seems a long time to be floating around with some mothballs.
Sat there and bounce around. Yeah, that was the longest of any trip I was ever on water, for 28 days.
Wow.
Have you ever been to Centennial Village in Greeley? And did that bring, what was that like going back? Did it bring any memories, or?
The pantry at the Centennial Village, what they got there, I ate dinner in that many and many times. It
Oh.
had come from the farm out there where it was at.
The pantry, is that is it a little restaurant?
Sod,
It's a sod house.
Oh, okay.
Sod
house, and they fixed it up, moved it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then they have a blacksmith shop there too. Have you been through that?
I had too much of that growing up.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna ask you about more about that. What were your duties, and what did you do when you worked in the shop, or what do you remember about?
Well,
The
I
shop.
remember most of it. Well, Dad had a forge. You know what a forge is? It's a pit, you know, of hot coals. He'd heat the plowshares, then he'd stick them under a big old trip hammer. Well, I could never hold them under the trip hammer because I only weighed 90 pounds. So Dad would say, "Get out of my way, I'll do the sharpening." And so then he'd let me sharpen them on the grindstone. Or else I was drilling holes for something, whatever was needed. We built wagons and things for the farmers. Then we had to finish putting the bolts in and everything, so you better have the hole right. And then weld, I could weld, repair.
So Myra, what do you think of Walmart?
It's okay to a certain extent. So,
Do you think it takes business away from the smaller family
it
businesses?
does, definitely. Yeah, any that the mom and pop shops, and they're hurt.
Right. Do you think that if we got enough support, we could do something about that?
The support of what?
The community to maybe change that monopoly that Walmart has, especially here in Fort Collins. You know, there's a lot of college students who will go to Walmart because it's so incredibly cheap.
This is it. out there too with, you know.
We
the
have two big Walmarts.
Yeah. They're everywhere. Super Walmarts everywhere.
Well, they've been fighting Walmart coming in different places. They're too big to fight.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. That is very true. And that's hard when there's a monopoly over people. You know, they play with people's income, with, you know, the way they do things, and that's difficult. Did you experience anything like that when you were growing up?
We didn't have anything like that. We
So-
just had little mom and pa's shops, one grocery store, usually. But watch the change when Kmart and Sears finally decide what they're gonna do. There's gonna be a big change. I worked for Sears in Rochester, New York. It's a lot different here than there.
My question is, when you were growing up, what did you all do for entertainment when you were young? What did you find to do to pass the time?
What'd you find to do on the farm for pastime?
Well, like Betty said, you had it all outlined for you, but your parents, we all had our little duties to do. And from real early, I enjoyed and read a lot. And then Mom told us, she said, never sit and be idle, keep those hands busy. And then just for my own pleasure, I played the piano a lot. And just crafts, I did a lot of needlework, just like that. So,
Well, when the snow was on, we went tobogganing.
Oh, yeah.
Dad would build us a sled of some kind, or we'd go down the hill on a horse and bring it back up.
Oh, that's
Sweet.
nice.
Ante over, ever play ante over? It's a game where you have teams on the side of the house or building that you're playing over. You toss your ball over and you catch it, and then they run around and see if they can get one of you before you can get around on their side. Ante over. Or in the snow, fox and geese.
Don't know about that one either.
Draw a circle and divide it like a pie, and one guy'd be in the center, and he'd call out fox or geese, and whichever one you happen to be, you better run back home. Or else you were in the center, in the snow. In the snow.
Yeah.
Angels.
Snow angels.
We
yeah.
played with each other. We had a lot of games. Rode the horses. Yeah.
Did you ice skate?
We didn't have any place to ice skate. No. We didn't.
my parents played board games a lot, evenings, you know, it was always a close
What
thing, the family.
what board games?
And then, there, what is it, authors, Old Maid, you know, and some of those, and then,
Checkers.
one, I don't know what we played, what we had, we passed, and it was called Pig, and whoever got that did like that, and then, you know, you'd be so busy here, and then I don't know what it is, I think the last one that saw that they ended up being the pig, so, you know, just simple little silly games like that.
Yeah.
We went arrowhead hunting quite a bit. Dad had a beautiful collection of arrowheads. We all did that together, covered the hillsides.
Wow, were there a lot?
We had a lot in our area. We had Indians in our area.
Hmm.
What do you think about the way that we, as America, treated Native Americans?
It's terrible.
Were you ever afraid?
Never
Mhm.
afraid of them.
Did you know some?
They were always in our yard.
So-
Did you interact? Did you talk to them or?
Not really. Yeah, they could gesture, we could too, you know, if they needed something, like if they needed water or if they needed something like that.
What
But
about,
their circles are still out there on the farm where they pitch their tents.
what about Myra? Have you had any experiences with the Native Americans when you were growing up?
We each had, well, you're talking about the Indians or the
Yeah.
Hispanic. We didn't, right in our area, we didn't have the Indians. But each farmer had their own Hispanic family. And they were so devoted to you, you know, and we played together, we'd eat each other's places, you know, and just, And I said, it was really funny when we was real little, and we picked up the language, and you, in one sentence, you'd have Spanish and English and German.
Yeah.
So, and then my mom would sew for the family too, the children, and I know she made a coat for the one. And the neighbors' children were always hanging around and standing on our porch, and the one girl from there, she said, Johnny, she ain't got no coat either. But we were really close.
Good.
And you didn't need to tell them what to do, you know, they were our beat labor. And then if they see you had the cattle were out of hay, they knew, go to the straw stack, you know, with the wagon. It's very dependable.
I was wondering how you get by nowadays. Do you get Social Security or
Oh, absolutely.
okay. Is that your main income from that, or do you still work?
I've got, well, I sold all the farm in '82 and kept a fourth of the mineral rights, and we get
Oil checks
oil check.
and Social Security, that's what we live on.
Okay.
Do you feel that you live comfortably off of that, or do you think it's enough?
Oh, it's great. It's more money than I'd ever had.
If that, had that oil check 50 years ago, I really did something.
You'd have been the next
We
Rockefeller.
wouldn't have to darn our socks.
What does that mean?
Darn socks?
Yeah.
Oh, Myra, tell them about darning socks. You know, we got a hole in your sock and then you darned it.
Oh. Then when you run out of darning sock, I don't do it as much now, but we did, everybody did. And that ran out of thread, and I went to the store and I said, I looked and nothing. I went to the clerk and I said, I want some darning thread. And she looked at me, I lost my mind. They didn't even know what that was, but, and in school with this dress code, we had to wear nylons, and they were nylon, I mean, and then you just look at them and they'd run every evening. We girls would sit and darn those
The
runs in our stockings, you know. We grew up with darning.
You know, Mom used to put a jar or something round inside so that you could, you know,
Yeah, you had to
Fill
have
in
some
your hole.
real firm
you
inside
were,
to.
yeah, you were filling in your hole.
Wow.
The boys learned to do that too. You had to. You didn't have any other socks. No grocery store, no money to buy them,
Mhm.
so you darned them.
Did you ever go, or do you go to the Greeley Stampede?
I never have.
You never have? Oh, there's another, do you wanna ask something?
Yeah.
I had another question.
What was the healthcare like for you guys back then? Because I know like my grandparents have all these home remedies, and like they never go to the doctor.
Raleigh's or Watkins stopped by and you buy what you needed.
What are,
You took care of each other that way,
So doctors would stop by and you would.
only if you called them.
what were, did you say Raleigh's and what?
Oh, that was, explain Raleigh and Watkins.
No, Myra will tell you about.
Now what?
Explain Raleigh's and Watkins.
Oh,
They were peddlers that come around, right?
that's where all the, our, food, what do you call them now? We bought an awful lot of things off of them. They'd come right to your door, have all the seasonings and the, oh, I don't know what, all, and then,
You'd use liniment, and you'd use salves.
oh, and then we had the Fuller Brushman. They had all the different brooms and brushes and then
Like,
everything.
we had midwives, and whenever you'd hear of anybody having trouble, somebody would check in on them, see what they could do.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have doctor, well, you could call the doctor if you had a phone.
And
You'd
the
send a
Watkins,
message
yeah.
in.
The Watkins sold quite a bit of food too, you know, to make your own puddings and things like that.
But you learned how to do medical stuff. You had to. If it was real serious, like a terrible accident or something, you try and get the doctor as fast as possible and get them, that's about as far as it could go.
And they were more reasonable too than the stores would charge for the same items.
So, do you remember when we landed on the moon?
Mhm.
Where were you when you first heard about that, and how did you feel about it?
I thought it was wonderful. Yeah, intelligent people enough to go to the moon. I was working in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
So you traveled the
Some,
U.S. quite a bit.
not much. Kansas, Nebraska, North and South Dakota, Colorado, of course.
Her first husband was a minister.
Okay.
25 years until he got sick.
What did he get sick with?
Cancer on the tongue.
Oh.
He had a tumor on the back of his tongue. Couldn't swallow. But nowadays they know a lot more about it.
Right. What about polio? Do you guys remember outbreaks of that?
We didn't have it around our area. Polio.
Not in our area, but my first wife's class in Keensburg lost two. Well, didn't lose two, but J.L. Sears, he's from Fort Lupton, but he went to Keensburg School. And he become an auctioneer, and I don't, well, none of you guys probably, he's still alive as far as I know, but he had to use his arms, and the car he drove with his feet. And he auctioned for years and years. Did good.
Did Adriana have a question?
No, I couldn't. Oh, yeah, I do remember it. Have you ever heard of Rattlesnake Kate?
Oh, yes.
She
In
was
fact,
our
I have a
neighbor.
picture of her. Where's my, oh, it's over there. I have a picture of her.
What do you
I think
remember
we have
about
pictures
her?
of it.
She lived very short ways
She
from.
lived 5 miles from where we lived, and then she,
Thank you.
her and her husband moved in 1.5 miles and that, from us, and for a few years. My first wife and I got married in the chicken house they lived in.
Yeah, if I could find her right quick.
Did you ever hear her story from her about the snakes firsthand? Like,
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah.
He did.
What do you remember about it? Like, what do you remember her telling you
Well,
about the story? Or can you tell us the story?
it's my wife, first wife, good, real good, but my oldest boy, he's got his shop over
There's Rattlesnake Kate.
at Kersey. My wife took him over and visited the neighbor, and they went into her house and right across the road, and he can tell you about the opening the drawers and the rattlesnakes laying right in the drawers in her house and all.
She can kill them and save the skins. Yeah, that's Rattlesnake Kate. She's
I
out here in the
worked,
museum.
for a
Grace is
reporter,
out here in the museum.
taking care of her little granddaughter, and she was the first one that was on the scene. And so I got the full story from her right away when she came home that evening. And right now, Greeley has opened a new museum, and they're gonna have her dressed in there.
They do
had
have
a-
it, we've
I
seen
think
it.
Put it in
Yeah.
storage for a
Centennial
while.
Village,
Yeah,
I
they
think.
did.
Uh-huh.
I had a picture
Now.
of it.
That's a new museum. Mhm.
Are there any other special things that you guys brought that you'd like to share with us? That maybe.
Well, I don't know, that, where's that little book at?
What's in there?
Yeah, that's, the diary from my mother
Teaching.
when she is teaching school out of Hoyt. Does anybody know where Hoyt is? You know? that?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, she taught school there at Hoyt, and I don't know who, if it was an Apple, what she
There's-
lived with, or who, but riding a horse to school in the snow up to the stirrups. Horse played out, and they'd turn the horse loose, and they'd go home, and they'd walk on through the snow to the schoolhouse. She'd
No pants either.
have one, one pupil, she'd have to start the fire and everything in the school.
Wow.
Maybe two people.
Yeah.
They couldn't get through either.
Did you bring some other?
Well, I showed you the house, didn't I? I showed you the house. This is a sandstone house that's down around Idalia, Yuma, Colorado. My great grandfather built that.
Wow.
Went down to the water and brought the rocks and the sandstone and mixed it and built a rock house. 2-story. My mom was born in that house.
Wow.
Did you learn how to ride a horse, or did you ride horses?
Oh yeah, we had to ride horses to school.
Did you ride
Yeah.
horses?
You had to have enough that you could always let a team rest, you know, a day or two in between because of the hard plowing, everything, you know, pulling those. Yeah, we all had horses.
We just used ours to ride to school.
We had 2 saddle horses in a mile and a half from the school. And in wintertime, why, we were always rode bareback and get on the horses in 15 minutes, we'd be that mile and a half and have the horses in the barn and be in the
Yeah,
schoolhouse.
we had to always take care of our horses first,
And
then go in. This is how they baled the grain. We did that many times.
it's summertime, we'd work in the field till 15 minutes to 9 and have our horses tied at the end of the field and get on it and go to school.
Remember-
Just
remember that?
loved to shot, I don't remember, I did it too.
Yeah, you bet.
With Mom.
We did. We gals got
And
right
she
out there.
was so,
And how they loaded the hay, this they didn't tie up, but they loaded the hay like that. Took it into the thrash machine to thrash it all out. Yeah.
So you guys had hay or?